before I realized the reason why I was so just upset. I was so upset and broken was because I wasn't pursuing what it is that I wanted. I was pursuing what I thought other people wanted from me. And that was a big aha moment of why am I living for other people? Why am I doing this for others? Why am I breaking my back for other people? And it's anything that they're asking me to do.
Okay, hello and good morning or good afternoon, wherever you're at, and welcome to my podcast. And here we have Hailey Jacobs, where we talk about entrepreneurs and starseeds awakening, and speaking of higher consciousness and bringing the world into a higher state of that mind, body, and soul, and a vision. So welcome, Hailey, and she is in Salida. And here I am in Denver, and we're both located in Colorado. How are you doing?
Oh man, I am outstanding this morning. Thank you so much, Reese. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. It's just like when we were talking earlier, just a few hours of sleep, but the energy exchange, tree of life, and yeah. So how do you pronounce? So it's Salida. That's how you pronounce it, or you would pronounce it.
Great question. We get that a lot. So originally, historically, Colorado had very strong Spanish, Mexican American, or South American influence. They were the original settlers. So the area that I'm living in, it's now pronounced Salida. However, originally it was Salida, which is Spanish for exit, because this location specifically is basically a gateway where it enters from the Arkansas River Valley. You can get to Canyon City and Pueblo, or out towards Crested Butte, Gunnison, Montrose, or down the Poncha Springs Pass, and gets you into the San Juan Valley, opening you up to southern Colorado. So it really is kind of a gateway. Hence the original name of Salida, but with Western migration and manifest destiny, the Americanization happened, and from Salida we find ourselves now commonly calling it Salida. So, but we're about 2.5, 3 hours away from the big cities out west, and very excited to be connecting with you on this virtual platform and having this amazing conversation. I cannot wait for the topics that we are diving into today.
Yeah, it's awesome, because I was just thinking you're the most that I've met when it comes to interacting online before the interview. And I was like, oh my gosh, and I'm going to meet her next week, and then just hoping, everything works out. And so you are in your field, you're a financial agent, or you're building your business and connections and clientele, or how far along are you in there?
Yes, so I'm an agent in the financial industry. I provide services across so many different variations and things of that nature, both when it comes to kind of like protection of income, as well as how we want to structure our savings, how to best make sure that we are protecting that money well into the future as well, so that we want to run out of it, but then two, make sure we've got something that we can pass along to families or cover the very end of our lives, which no one really, it's kind of hard to talk about and very scary to remind ourselves of our mortality. Yet when the unexpected happens, if we don't find ourselves prepared, the grief and the pain and the pressures that puts us under, it's almost so much more exacerbated. So I want to be able to sit down with people and have these comfortable conversations where it's just a friendly person connecting with another individual about, hey, what matters to you and how can we make sure that that is protected for you well into your future and your family's future. So it's absolutely in the realm of the financial empowerment, as well as literacy in the financial realm. And then also kind of the mindset that goes into how we look at money, And what's cool is whenever we start to have a healthy relationship with our finances, it opens up an opportunity to have a very healthy relationship in a lot of other areas of our lives as well. So for kind of an umbrella of finances, tie it into a beautiful wellness package for oneself.
So when you like went into that industry in that field, how did you like tie that with your spiritual growth? Like how did you know that was your path and dream when it comes to tying in the whole of your essence and bringing that out to the people?
That is a great question. Up to about 4 years ago, I had zero interest in anything financial, and that showed. I was a almost 30-year-old woman with no savings and zero clue about the world around her, and frankly, the landscape that I was going to be finding myself in as I kind of got older. As a 20-year-old, I was like, oh, I'll find the right job or this or that. And I was kind of floating. And I really wasn't doing a lot of personal growth either. But then I had a person who cared about me who asked me what it is that I was really searching for. And honestly, my answer was just freedom, a freedom to be myself, freedom to pursue the things that I'm passionate about, which is people and nature, and making sure that people are becoming connected with nature, because I find that if we are grounded in nature and with the world itself, it opens us up to becoming more grounded within ourselves. And so I never thought I'd find myself in the financial industry whatsoever. I always thought it was very corporate greed, very like bankers, like, oh, it's so gate kept. If you're not born into it, you're never going to find the recipe for success. And when I interacted with this individual who just loved me enough to ask me these questions about where my beliefs came from with money, it opened up my eyes like, whoa, okay, maybe there is something different. And so I then started to pursue personal development, personal growth. And then I realized that I was feeling so disconnected with pursuing my true passion because I had no idea how I was even going to fund myself or my dream. And then when I found myself in the financial industry and this opportunity that I currently have and that I'm building, it allowed me to connect my passion for helping others and serving my community in a way that's very impactful, where I'm bringing value to people. But I'm also in an industry that really has a pretty high rate of compensation. And so if I can get paid really well by helping people, then I'm going to do it, especially if it's in a way, in a form, in a system where I'm not taking that money from the people who are looking for the answers. I'm getting it from the corporations that have plenty of money to spare. And so being able to be the bridge to get over that gap of helping the average American family that's just trying to find that extra $20, $100, $200, $500 to save for their futures, and bringing them the services for free that should be free. It should not be gate kept and or hidden behind a paywall, so that they can then pursue the American dream that they have instead of feeling like they're stuck in this perpetual American nightmare.
So that when you connect with your clients, when you present your program, how do you bring in spirituality? Do you bring in one's destiny? Do you bring in their vision, or do you cut that line of just mainly material of being financially stable?
No, I make sure that everything, whenever I sit down with a person, it is imperative to understand what their future vision is. And what's interesting is when I sit down with an individual that they're struggling to make ends meet, they're working 3 jobs and still living paycheck to paycheck to support their family. And I ask them, what do they feel like they were put on this earth to do? What is it that truly gets their soul on fire? What do they feel their purpose is? And when I receive a lot of materialistic things in return, like, oh, I just really want to make sure that my kids have a better quality of life than I did, or these things like I want to be able to take my family on an awesome vacation twice a year without having to worry about how much it's going to cost. And from there, I get more curious about that because for a lot of people, it is very materialistic that they're focused on. If I can just have this thing, if I can just accomplish this amount of money every year, hit this point of my salary each year, climb the corporate ladder to get to this point, then that will bring me success and fulfillment because I won't have to stress about money. And in reality, how many millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires are out there in the world today that have all the money in the world but still are not fulfilled, that still struggle with finding peace to whenever they lay their head down at night. So it's not just money, and having wealth and financial independence is really only half of it. If we don't understand ourselves as people, then frankly, we're not really doing much good with that money either. And so a big part of what it is that I do is connecting people with their heart again and making them realize like why their why is so big, and their why is typically rooted in something way deeper than just getting the car or having the vacations. Their why is so that they can go forth and create some kind of a nonprofit or an organization or school of study for individuals to improve themselves, to better their situation. And if I can empower individuals to reconnect to that deeper purpose, that's truly the ultimate goal of really anyone that I sit down with is just, hey, who are you? And then what is it that lights your fire and gets you up in the morning outside of just clocking in for your 9 to 5 for the money? But like, what was the dream as the child that we can turn into our dream as an adult?
And that angle and asking your clients, does it take you back? At what point? Because you had said that originally you weren't looking into the financial industry. So what shifted that mindset? When did you realize that was the field that you want to work in, that will activate that essence and that spark in you to go forward and, have a vision for yourself as well as for the people that you're working with?
It started with a question. It started with a mentor who they showed me an opportunity where just by connecting people with services in this type of environment, in this agency that I'm building, that being able to provide value to families, totally complimentary and free for them, but still in a way where I can grow a business and be taught how to build and structure and grow any business with this mentorship and leadership that I have has been next level. I was very underdeveloped as a person before I found my agency that I am building, before this individual who showed me the platform that they are leveraging and showed me how to use the exact same platform to build something of my own. And so, but with it, honestly, it all boiled down to personal growth. I started getting so hungry about knowing myself better. I had mentors asking me uncomfortable questions that, frankly, I didn't really know how to answer at first. I kind of regurgitated the typical, oh, this is what I want. I want comfort. I don't want to have to work until forever. And then over time, every single time I had these questions asked, it allowed me to reflect deeper on that. And then I realized that's something that we are missing in our society, is caring individuals asking really good questions about what is it that we really want out of this life, and getting very real about it and saying, like, is that what you like really, really want? Is that the 10 out of 10, or is that just what you think is the answer that the general wants that every American has? And so I don't know, it really opened up my eyes to the ability to create an ability to create a system and a business that empowers individuals from the root up, not even from the ground. I'm talking from the roots on a spiritual level, where when they get absorbed into my environment, it's more than just, well, let's talk about your finances today. It's let's talk about your spirit today. Let's talk about what you are emotionally experiencing and what are your true deep fears and what are those fears telling us? Because typically our fears are not something that we need to be avoiding, but instead it highlights the areas or the skills that we get to start to work on, which I think is really cool. And sitting down with individuals, getting to understand their current mindset and then kind of playing games to open up a broader view of what our thinking can start to become, and we're starting to shed old limiting beliefs that we absorb as a child and just hold on to with like iron like grips, and start to release that what doesn't serve us anymore and actually begin to put on the new layers that really are authentically us, and letting go of the old narratives. And that's just what happened to me. That was my own experience, where just from being shown, I was so hopeless, Reese. I was in a place where I had applied for over 250 different jobs, and I'm very hireable, but no one was hiring me. And I was like, what is it that you're actually looking for? I told him, it's like, well, if I could show you, would that be of value? Absolutely. I'm open to anything. So just being heard and seen and poured into and shown that there is a way I can help families for free, yet still get compensated in one of the highest paid industries. So then I can use that to fund my future long-term dreams of, frankly, I want to create a nonprofit where I'm going around and talking to inner city communities or those that don't have the funding or empowered or encouragement to go out and be a part of nature. Those that are disenfranchised, that feel like the outside world isn't for them, or it's scary, or that it's not safe. I really need to show them that they are needed in these types of environments, not just wanted, but needed. And the power of having that connection with our Mother Earth. Because that's another place that I found immense amounts of healing for myself, is just being tied to my natural world. And I've seen it in countless other human beings. And I want to be able to provide a space for that opportunity for people to feel seen. And the financial industry just happens to be an amazing way of achieving my ultimate goal of building something to obtain passive income, where that I don't have to work for money anymore. I have a passive income stream that allows me to pursue my true dreams and passions. That's ultimately what I want to show other people how to accomplish, is what is your dream? What is your goal? How can we utilize something that aligns with your values to achieve that, where you don't have to work or slave for anybody else? You get to just work for yourself and essentially get to the point where you are paying yourself, so you don't have to work anymore.
I was just thinking, when you were speaking and helping these clients, do you go in other levels of a area of conversations, topics, like we did the other day when you are presenting your program and the layout of how you present things, because we went into like the star seed aspect as well of spirituality. Do you go deep in that angle with your clients and tie it with your life experiences of before you had gone into this industry?
Yes, absolutely. I feel that is a huge aspect of true connection and authentically connecting with others. It's more truly understanding and meeting a person where they are at, because especially if I'm sitting down with a person that they're not very aware of how many iterations their soul has experienced on this planet or in other universes, are very new souls, new spirits, then a lot of that is very broad spectrum. And so I work very hard to meet people exactly where they are. And I say I work very hard. It's not hard work, it's heart work. And so I put my heart out there and I meet them exactly where they are. If it's a person that they're very young in their soul's journey, I talk to them about mindset. I do speak with them about beliefs. I ask them where they currently are and what their experiences have been in this life. And I work with that. But for those that have a very deeper understanding of the spiritual realm of themselves, it's very important to take the time to make sure that we are connecting on a soul level outside of just that personal level. Because this is more than just, if I'm going to be sitting down with a person and helping them build a solid plan for their entire future, we're going to be connecting and talking for the forever future. It's not going to be we meet once, twice, 5 times, we get something in place and then, okay, bye, that was great. No, I care so deeply about building a friendship, a relationship with everyone that I encounter, because that's where we really do the good work, is whenever we are connecting soul to soul. And that's really where the power starts to come. And that's the only way that I can start to help people shift mindset or shift beliefs and start empowering them, because it's more than just a financial empowerment. I'm a personal builder too. I build people, I build businesses, I build agencies, I build up financial futures. But at the root of it, I am a people builder. So when I'm sitting down with someone, my utmost focus is, what can I do to bring value to this person today, right now, in this time that I have? And if that means that puts off an education or something for the next day so that we can have a really good conversation and get to know one another and I can understand their values, their goals, their vision better, that's the priority. It's not, let me just put them through and get them like from step 1 to step 10 as fast as possible. We're not doing anyone any favors that way. But if we are really pouring into other individuals, building them up as they are building their own futures, that's where real power comes in.
Is in interacting with them and throughout the time of that relationship that you have with them, the connection, does it build over time when it comes to opening up that type of topic and connection of spirituality and how to mold that with their dreams of the service that you're providing?
That's a good question. And absolutely. And because that's the only way that I found the growth that I've been experiencing, and the self-awareness and the development that I have gone through is because my coach and mentors met me where I was, but then they would ask really good, deep questions just to get me to understand myself better. And that's the exact approach that I have with others as well, because of how influential that was for me. Having a person just asking me a deep question where they're not looking for any answer. They're not trying to prospect a specific outcome. The only outcome they're aiming for, and that I aim for when I ask people those deep questions, is, how can we get to know yourself a little bit better? How can we start to kind of question what we were raised to believe, so that way we can form our own ideas, form our own decisions, our own opinions based off of the amount of information that we have. So that's another thing I love to do. I love sharing stories and metaphors, anecdotes with others, especially for those young souls that don't have a lot of experience or resilience when it comes to handling anything in our world, or those kind of tougher, it's almost like a soul quest that we face sometimes. And whenever we ask those challenging questions, it's not to break down a belief. but rather to just challenge what we used to know. And if that belief still holds true, is it something that hurts us or helps us? And if it's something that hurts us, why hold on to it anymore? What if we reframed it? And asking those what if questions, allowing a person to kind of put themselves into a different perspective and seeing the power of that perspective shift. And it's that holding the hand and gentle guidance, but also being a lighthouse for those stuck in a storm, where it's the, like, I can't go out there and save you, but I can project my light as far out as possible and show you a safe way to navigate out of the stormy seas. And it's, as I like to say, for those that go through a ton of adversity, it's the really rough seas that make an extremely strong ship's captain. So it's good for us to embrace those storms. It's good for us to embrace those times of turbulence and tribulations, because that is where our strength comes from. But it's really scary going through those moments alone. So if I can be a guiding light for others that are going through that and show them it's okay, you're going to make it out alive. It may be uncomfortable, but this is just making this the strong. It's just the strength here. I feel like that's really it. And so just finding the ways that I can do that with other people. And it's every individual is different. And that's one thing I love about people, is just like a snowflake, just like a fingerprint, we are all so beautifully unique with our own swirls and patterns and lights and auras within us. We are all a beautiful tapestry that is constantly being changed and worked on and moved. And whenever I approach anybody that they don't see themselves that way, I just ask, okay, what questions can I ask to help them see themselves? And I just get really curious. And I feel like if we just are curious about other people and the human condition, then it provides us so much opportunity to build each other up in ways that it's not a traditional way of doing so.
But what, like, personal story can you share with the audience and the viewers of seeing that you really do understand where some individuals are with types of trials that you've gone through?
Wow, my big one, and it happened. It was my most recent kind of aha moment of, wow, it's personal growth and development is very important. I have been stagnant and it has disserviced me. It was the winter of 2022. I was at my job that I'd had for 4 years. I was a team lead, trying to find a position in management that I could work my way into, just looking for that opening and all of these other things. And something happened where a position opened and I was in alignment for it. And then out of the blue, someone else was chosen for it, who was less senior, had less experience, had direct family ties with the owner of the business. And I felt very frustrated. I felt extremely downtrodden. I felt like I was invisible. I struggled with feelings of lack, and that for some reason I just wasn't good enough. And yet I'd given 4 years of my life and worked extremely hard and put so much of my heart and soul into this business and this company. And I felt like I was kind of just there because it was easy to keep me around. And I was good at my job and I wasn't going to raise any flags or rock any boats. And internally, I felt so dejected that it affected my relationships outwardly. It affected me as a spouse to my partner. I became a terrible partner. I was not a good friend. I projected all of my insecurities and upsets onto my friends and those that I loved around me. I completely became a shell of the person who I was, frankly. I was angry and bitter and sad. And I didn't even understand it. I didn't even understand why I was feeling this way. I was like, oh, I get it. It wasn't my job. And it took me a solid months before I realized the reason why I was so just upset. I was so upset and broken was because I wasn't pursuing what it is that I wanted. I was pursuing what I thought other people wanted from me. And that was a big aha moment of why am I living for other people? Why am I doing this for others? Why am I breaking my back for other people? And it's anything that they're asking me to do. So fast forward, I find myself in a youth program that started off talking about different just mindset and understanding restorative justice and looking at ourselves and that reflection. And I started to listen to Brene Brown and really start doing kind of some self-work and a lot of reflection. And in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, another reason why I'm so unhappy is because I'm not growing. I'm not developing. I'm not improving myself. And I'm not connecting with other people either. I'm staying in the exact same rooms with the same people that were also bringing me down. And so at that point, I kind of had this moment of, okay, change my associations. And I started to talk with those that are very positive, who have built successful things, who have gone from nothing to completely, they've done everything on their own, which I've never really done that. I've led a very like comfortable life, albeit, frankly, and so, which is why he didn't have that resilience as an adult. I had zero resilience. And so for me, it was just that moment of getting broken down to absolutely nothing, where I was just a pile of rubble. And I had to say enough is enough. I had to love myself and say enough was enough, and just get curious about like, what is that shift? What is that change that I need? And I just started to listen. Instead of speaking, I used to be very opinionated. I just started to then listen. And that was another thing that brought me peace, was to stop regurgitating my own opinions and to then reflect and gather as much as I could from others and their experiences. And that, hearing what other people have gone through, and even knowing the tough things that I've gone through and survived, I made it to the other side. It's like, okay, I can do hard things every day, and other people do hard things every day, and I can show up for myself and love myself enough to accomplish the hard things, because I know that doing the hard things is what gets us to the sunny side of our lives, whatever that looks like. Because that's, it's up to perspective, but that was kind of the catalyst, I want to say, for everything, was that moment of being broken down to absolutely nothing and feeling that I was so lost that my only option was to start finding myself.
Like, so when you're like sharing that, I was like imagining and seeing like what you had to go through to transition to the other side, and you saw it as a catalyst. So it's just like other individuals that you have connected with, did they meet that type of dark night of the soul and that dark tunnel where they couldn't see? And
that's what I find is basically every single person has that story. If they only have one of those stories, they're doing really, really well in life. Am I right? Like, how many times do we go through these periods and moments that completely shatter us. But what is so cool about those moments, and it doesn't always feel like it in the moment, and it's almost like you have to have more of those instances to start seeing the light on the other end. Because I know how dark and how despairing it feels, especially when you're first start experiencing those adversities, those challenges, the complete and utter shakedown of your world, where it just feels like the biggest earthquake hit and everything has been leveled, and you're like, where do I begin rebuilding? And whenever I connect with individuals that are in that spot where they like, I don't even know how to pick myself back up. And then you kind of just say by one brick at a time. What's the first brick that works for you? And leave the ones that don't to stay in the rubble. But let's start rebuilding based off of the bricks that have the values that matter to you. And let's build a new, stronger foundation to go off of. And so it's that process of sitting with a person and taking a look at, what is this belief on this brick? Is this really is this one you want to keep in your new world, or is this one that you want to toss? And giving them that option of, you know what, that's one I need to keep because that is me, versus that is not me. That is something that someone else projected onto me. They built my house with that brick. I don't need that anymore. And giving people the power to start looking at their own lives like that, and kind of, and it's again, it's that perspective, it's that shift of a mind frame, where then instead of a person being like, my life is a mess, being like, okay, well, let's start looking at the rooms and seeing what we can start picking up and putting into an organized place. And whenever you put kind of an entry to that, it allows people to take a step back and not be so absorbed and lost in the chaos. It allows them to like, oh, I can be an observer. I don't have to be totally lost in all of this this craziness. I can just stop and watch and observe. And that's another really cool shift, is whenever separating the I from the self, and knowing that we can be the watcher of our thoughts. We are the watcher of our reactions, and we can control how we react. And it's a practice by, one day at a time, one small step at a time, one small habit at a time, where it's just like taking the little bites that build up into large compounding effects.
Yeah, it reminds me of those who have like lost their homes from a flood, or just lost a whole bunch, and it's like you said, it's how we respond, how we carry ourselves. Do we blame that and point the finger around and say, this is what happened, that's what they did, and it's like the self-pity victimhood mode of like not really owning, but more of that angle of seeing that it's just material items. You can still replace it, you can still build your life, you can still get to that stage with where you're at, and you're not like so attached to it, and knowing that it's still, you can still make that path happen. It's still doable. You can still repeat that same process. It'll take a while, yes, but if you have that strength and that stamina and that foundation of seeing that it's not so much of the material, but it's more of the spiritual aspect of that brings us forward and go and drive through life. It leads us to that direction where the universe provides the sources. And so in your field, in working with these clients, have you worked with in that type of environment where there's the major type of earth changes that impacted the persons or a family that you needed to step in and assist them? That also in working with a colleague, or if you had to like bring in an extra partner to work and collaborate with on how to help the families and individual?
Absolutely. I've got down with families that, I share with them what it is that I do, how I'm helping with other individuals, and the services that I provide. And they're like, thanks, it sounds really good, but you know what? We feel solid. And I'm like, that's great. I'm glad that you do have some protections in place. If you really feel like there's nothing further I can do beyond, like, I can ask you questions to see if it really is important to you. But if you feel good, then all right, I'm not going to hound you on that either. And then something happens to a family member where they get in a car accident, they can't work for 6, 9, 10 months, but they don't have anything in place to help protect their income for that. And so then they're having to start a GoFundMe, crowdfunding to help make ends meet, to make sure that they don't lose their house or get foreclosed on, that they don't have their vehicle impounded or repoed or any of those things, and the amount of pressure and stress that it puts them in so much deeper. And it's always so interesting to me how we feel like we are good enough and we don't ask ourselves the really good, hard questions about, like, but what if? But what if something happens? And do I have an emergency fund? Because no, I chose to go on 3 different vacations this year to Belize and Spain, which is, yes, experiences are so important and experiencing other cultures are necessary for our growth as a person. But if we aren't making sure that we are covered on those types of events, the stress, the pressure that it puts on people, I mean, in and of itself, like, are you familiar with one of the number one causes of divorce?
Is
Money.
the issue of money.
It's money. And that's the leading cause of divorce. And so if people are stressed about money and it's causing fights in their family and upset and concerns and confusion and possibly even separation and divorce, that alone, the amount of stress that that puts on a person then begins to affect their health. And oddly enough, it's not even odd, it's just kind of crazy how this works, but the number one cause of bankruptcy is medical debt. And so the fact that people are worrying about where they are going to be putting their money, or they're like how they're going to pay for things, how they're going to have the funding for stuff, it creates so much stress that they work themselves up into cardiovascular disease or any other slew of medical problems that come with it. And then at that point, they go into medical debt, and then they're even further from having their financial stability. And there's ways we can protect ourselves medically so that we don't experience that medical burden and cost and all of these things. And so it really is just with a little bit of light preparedness and some simple education and empowerment, an entire family can avoid all of that. And if I can sit down and help a family avoid medical debt, disease from stress, and chronic issues from stress, and in and of itself also know that if anything unexpected happens, they are covered and they have that peace of mind, like, oh my goodness, the amount of relief. And that's the other side of that I've experienced. I've experienced both sides of it, where someone didn't have protection after I sat down with them and something happened and they were like, we should have done more. We could have done more and we chose not to. And I've also sat down with those that made the decision to do something and to put those kinds of protections in place and those savings. And whenever something comes up, they're like, I can't even imagine what I would be doing if we didn't have this in place. I am so grateful that I took the time, the small amount of time, to just learn about money so that I could make sure that we are covered. Because if we spend so much time trading our time for money, do you think it makes a little bit of sense for us to then take some of that time to learn how money works?
Mm-hmm. How do you see, when it comes to, like you had mentioned, based on education, if a person is more educated in that financial aspect and how they build it, and their income or their finances, they would be more prepared? Would you say that they would be more prepared with the economy, with like the gas prices going up and the food and the housing industry? Like, what's your angle of understanding and how a person or families could actually prevent themselves from losing what they had, and then blaming that type of mindset to democracy and anyways, I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Oh, wow. That is such a powerful question too. It's because I was one of those families. I was one of those people that had zero idea of financial concepts. I had zero financial literacy. I was like, okay, savings go into a savings account and then you just let it grow, right? And then, but not necessarily. And like we understand, oh, the debt is bad, but is all debt bad? Is there ways that we can leverage debt too to help build our wealth? Like, yes. And with people empowering themselves and understanding like what even is an interest rate and how do I know how to shop for the best one to make sure I'm not shooting myself in the foot whenever it comes to debt. But also, how can I make sure that I am maximizing any potential gains from interest? Because that's one of the biggest gains right there, is understanding interest rates and how to use them for yourself. And then outside of that too is understanding taxes, because I mean, whenever we talk about taxes, we either love it or we hate it. And usually whenever we hate it, it's because we don't understand we have options. We feel like it's, no, Uncle Sam's just going to take all of my money and have his really poor spending habits that I don't agree with, right? But whenever we give ourselves the tools and the weapons to then arm ourselves for the fight, so we can defend ourselves from an industry that frankly is rampant in taking advantage of people, because that's historically how they made their way. And that's why there is such a prevalent tone of, it's all for the 1%ers. It's not meant for me. If you're not born into it, then it's not yours. If you don't go to school for it, then you're never going to learn it. When in fact, that is literally all systemically limiting beliefs to keep us disenfranchised, to keep us down and to keep us from pursuing that knowledge that is out there. And if we start arming ourselves, then we can start putting very simple practices into place to then keep more money for ourselves, where we can kind of reduce our exposure to taxes, so that way we're able to foot our own bills better and actually start saving for our futures in places where it's compounding, and in places where our government put money that they don't tell us about it, but that's where they're doing it. And same thing with our banks. Our banks are leveraging different strategies that the average American can pursue to help compound the growth of their wealth, but nobody's telling them about it. And the reason why is because then it takes the power away from the big companies, away from the big banks. And so if we start empowering the people, we can begin to take that power back away from the governmental organizations that seem to want to run everything, but don't really have the authority to do so, or the experience, frankly. So it's essentially just that getting the money back into the hands of the American people by teaching them the tricks that the 1%ers are using that everyone can do. It's not just reserved for the ultra wealthy or those that have had that official education. Anybody can do it if they just learn the basic strategies.
Yeah, so when it comes to the whole world, the planet, when it comes to the financial part, what's your understanding when it comes to the spiritual aspect of it? Do you see that one spiritual growth and connection in their destiny or their faith is the stronger and more grounded is, the more financially stable they are? Or does it look more from like they look poor or deprived from that type of financial wealth, but internally they are actually rich, like the simple life, like those in the third world countries. A lot of them are very much more connected with life, and they don't have much, and they live simple, and they live a really abundant life. In comparison to us here in America, the Americans have a whole bunch of materialism around them, but deep down they're actually empty and feeling that depression and just alone in the world. So what's your angle of understanding when it comes to the tying that spirituality with the financial foundation part of it?
Oh gosh, you are full of outstanding questions. That is such an amazing topic. All right, let's crack into this one. Okay. Success and wealth to people mean very different things. Like you ask that person in Ghana, what is wealth to you? And if it's like having a roof over my head, never having to worry about food in my family's belly, and we are doing what we love, and we are happy and healthy, and we are fulfilled. That is an extremely wealthy lifestyle. And for so many, even just American families, they're like, honestly, just freedom from debt, where I don't have to worry about debt and interest and all of these things that are just crushing me. That is wealthy to me. And I'm like, amazing. Let's get that dream going. Let's get you out of debt. It's never like, oh no, you have to be a billionaire in order to be successful and to have wealth. No, that's just the definition to some people. And for those, it's like you, oh my gosh, you nailed it. How many people out there have all of the money in the world, and they've got all these material possessions around them, and they are still just so deeply unhappy? And if we aren't truly connected with our purpose on this earth and in our universe, then no amount of money or success, or and like success, the air quote success, or materialism or any of that is going to do you any good. That's not the purpose. That's not the point. But if you are truly connected with your why, your reason, and whether you have a really strong relationship with a creator, or you have, you're really rooted in just kind of natural science, you understand that there is a deeper connection and a purpose that we are all here for. And it's operating through that. And I mean, the Japanese even have a philosophy. It is how they find their careers. It's ikigai, which is an overlap of what can I do as a vocation that I have a skill in, that I'm passionate about, that the world needs. And whenever you attach all of those together, you find fulfillment. And it doesn't matter if you are living in a little shack and you have everything that you need right there, or if that leads you into a mansion where you're able to host people and share your good word or the good news. I'm not sure. Again, so really it's the finding what success means to oneself and working within that. And so for me, I do have dreams and goals and aspirations to create a passive income of at least a couple of $1 million, so that I can turn that into charitable organizations, into nonprofits. So I can turn that around and start to try to funnel that really good heart money into the world where it's needed. Because frankly, I'm really tired of billionaire ego projects being spaceships, whenever we've got a lot of things on this planet that we can get right. And so I want to be one of those affluent individuals and build something by helping people, by really serving the community and serving the world, and get to the point where I can then project that into a much larger grand scheme. So that's where my sense of fulfillment and success comes from, is how big can I grow so I can bring more impact and more value as far across this globe as possible.
So in reaching that and going that direction, do you see yourself being more abundant in the vision, fulfilling it? Do you?
Yes, and I don't have grand dreams of having like 15 properties across the world and doing all these things. I have very humble expectations for what home looks like, but very grand aspirations for what the outreach aspect looks like. And when I sit down with people, I find that that's kind of a trend. Most average, everyday 99% of us Americans, we're like, if this is possible, I just get my own little thing set up, then that would allow me to go out and do these really big, powerful things that I want to for others. And that's my dream. How can I get them to that ultimate version of themselves so that they can go out and make massive impact in their world around them in whatever area industry is passionate to them? Because, like, let's be honest, how many people are like, I love finance? Oh, not many, but the abilities and the connections and the empowerment and the opportunities that this industry gives me really excites me, only because then again I can start to connect, build, and empower other people to growing what they want. Like one of my business partners, he's going to build a permaculture business where it's more than just going around and doing like building permaculture, like sustainable yards for people to live off of. But he's also wants to build a compound, an entire tribe, a community of like-minded people with natural medicines, with everyone. There's a butcher, there's it's completely self-sustaining. So he's not into the financial industry because he's into finances, but he loves the education and the empowerment of others, so that way they can pursue their dreams, and it also funds his dream to bring something massive and very important to our corner of Colorado. And that's one thing that also excites me about your dream and vision too, Reese, because I see it and it is so needed. And so many people have these visions and these goals and these dreams and aspirations to build big, beautiful, important, world-changing environments. And we just got to find the funding to make it happen.
Yeah, no, it's all in the timing of how and where the universe guides us. And it's all in that taking that step one at a time versus skipping those steps. And it's like building that foundation with a good foundation, because without it, that house is going to fall. And so in working with, because this is the second time you had mentioned about the Ikigai, can you just mention about like the background of it, the origin of the story? How did the Japanese, do you know the history behind that? And knowing about the Ikigai, do you also function in alignment with that? Do you work with that concept and bring that in yourself and with the clients that you work with?
Yes. Honestly, I can't tell you where I first became aware of the philosophy and the principle of Ikigai. My brother-in-law spent time in Okinawa as a Marine. He was stationed there. And while there, we had a lot of deep conversation just about the Japanese culture, because he really felt at home there with the type of mindset, the thinking of the Japanese people. And a big one was that he's like, everyone just feels so at peace. Everyone feels very like calm and centered within themselves. And so because of that, there's not a lot of conflict. There's not a lot of, individuals are very polite to one another, and especially to strangers. And it's prominent to smile at one another instead of just turn your head like, oh, no, don't stare. And so I got curious. It's like, what makes the Japanese culture, the Japanese people so much more just happy all around? Like, what is it that brings them so much more fulfillment in their lives? And then whenever I look deeper into that, and it's a Venn diagram, it's very simple, but it gets bigger as you look deeper into it. And I don't know exactly when the philosophy came around, but it is whenever I read it, I understood it. It's something that really resonated within me. And I had that moment of, oh, I can definitely understand why so many people walk around kind of like lifeless zombies, especially in their day-to-day lives, because how often, especially in our society, do we go to school? You can be whatever you want to be. You dream, little child, dream big. As long as you're a good person and you work hard and you stay focused, you're going to achieve it. And then you get to high school and it's like, ooh, it's a pretty big dream. You better be prepared to work really hard for it. And you get to college and then they're all like, well, you know how flooded that market is? You better be the top of the business in that industry in order to even have a hope of achieving anything in it. And you're like, well, I guess I'm just going to go out and get a job and do whatever I can because my dream obviously isn't for me. And so we find ourselves in the jobs that'll help pay our bills because, like, oh, that makes good hourly wage, or oh, I've got those kind of qualifications or certifications, or that doesn't require me to get a bunch of certifications because I don't have that money right now. And we find ourselves compromising on what it is that we really want to be, who we want to be as children. Because when we are children, that is the closest to God, to ourselves that we could possibly be. And slowly we lose ourselves over time. And so if we start tuning back into like, okay, what are some of the things that I'm passionate about? What are things that I can have that if I already have the skills or I can build the skills in that area of passion? And then, well, what of it is it in my passion that the world needs? Like, what's the need there? Great. Okay, there's a need. Then what is a job that I can fulfill in that? And whenever you tile 4 of those units together, you create a place where, since you are doing something you love every single day, and it's something that is needed, so it's not like it's just going to be your passion work. There is something that is something you can get paid for, compensated for. If you've got a lot of skills in it, you can build more skills because you love doing it and you're fascinated by it, so you can become a master in that field. And then if you've got a really good job doing that, you can grow and diversify all of those services in such a way where you can create a very powerful system that works for you and essentially turn all 4 of those things of your business into passive income, a multi-handed income stream, and in a way where it doesn't burn you out to achieve it, in a way that it really fuels your soul. Like, you can't wait to work a 12-hour day doing what you love to do, bringing value to others, instead of that, I have to go to this 9 to 5. This next 8 hours is going to kill me, but at least it's Friday. I have the weekend. Like, we've got to get out of that mindset of just like, if I can just make it to the weekend, I'll be okay. If we can start reconnecting people to that purpose, the ikigai for themselves, whoa, what is that going to look like? How will neighbors start to connect with each other? How is that going to feel whenever people aren't miserable and just stuck in this place of like, oh, I have to go through the motions? And instead they start feeling like, I get to do this every day. It's just really cool.
You had brought about the passion and one's need in life. It's like it really has that alignment of your vision and how we work. So when it comes to the individuals of, you know, your friend that, no, I'm sorry, your brother that was in Okinawa, that was in that type of environment and experienced the culture there, he was able to really have inspirations and dreams and vision of what to create for the future. It shows how the universe and God was like guiding him. It's like, this is what I want you to do when you come back to the US. And so it's like, and then what your vision is, and creating that type of environment and community, and your other partner, when it comes to your colleague that it's all in time. You can tell how God is working with everybody, wanting to create a community of like-minded individuals and move on forward and creating that environment, and not just being stable, but really grow together as a unit, as a unity entity. and their spiritual growth. And so when it comes to that whole angle of understanding where people are at, how many connections have you connected with other individuals, and bring that and networking and collaboration and fulfilling your vision in life?
Oh gosh, so many. I've gotten into Uber, like ride share Ubers or Lyfts, where, just talking to my driver and being like, is this really what you want to be doing? And they're like, no, absolutely not. But it's paying my bills, and I don't have to work for somebody else. Like, respect. And then whenever you encounter, strangers at the grocery store, anyone, it really is that, like, what is it that you want to be doing? Is it this? And they're like, no, well, share that vision with me. What is it that calls your heart, calls your soul? Like, well, this is what I want. And I get chills thinking about all of the incredible people that I've encountered that have massive dreams and visions for the future, and really strong, powerful things. And I immediately like, okay, I got to connect this person to whoever, whatever, anything that it is to make this happen. And because I'm a connector. There's a reason why I love people so much. Like, I can make friends with a doorknob. It's like, and it really is like, and people are they're hurting to be seen. It's like painful for individuals to feel so invisible right now. And I see that. And whenever an individual is recognized and encouraged and praised and poured into, it opens up a higher version of themselves that they didn't even know was there. I didn't. Whenever my mentor started pouring into me, it's a constant, a daily exploration of growth, and like, who is Hailey? Who is this beautiful woman that is like, just loves to laugh and loves to explore and be curious, and finding that within others? Like, who is Reese? Who is my next door neighbor, and at their truest, most authentic selves, and having the fun, lighthearted conversations, as well as kind of the deeper, tougher questions, to really open that up. Because we as humans, we are messy, we are complicated, we are tough, but we are so beautiful. We are so passionate. We are so loving, that whenever we really turn the faucets on for other people, it's incredible to watch what starts to pour out of them. And as you're filling up other cups, watching how they can then pour into others. And then if we just have a society of people pouring into each other and empowering one another and supporting one another, regardless of who's in office, it doesn't matter. And that's what I really want to see, is less division in America, in the world, because really we're all just red, gushy, messy human beings on the inside. There is nothing that separates us except for what's between our ears and the way that our big electric meat sack thinks about itself. And if we can just start opening people up that we're not our electric meat sack, we are the spirit in here, and it takes a lot of pressure off of us to perform. And if we take pressure off of ourselves, we really start to feel that childlike wonder, and we want to explore. We want to be curious. We want to get creative. We want to get messy again. And that's like so fun. If I can just bring the childlike wonder out in anyone that I speak with, that is some gold right there. That is worth its weight in any currency, and to me.
Yeah, I love how you do that. Like, whenever we speak and they have this energy of just really beautiful energy of spark in you, I can see that you always want to keep that frequency up, and that energy exchange to keep it alive and positive and really an inspiration for others. And so we had touched about the frequencies the other day and how energy is how energy and education, it's all interrelated. So how do you see when it comes to the energy of money and one's energy of essence, and how do you align that individual? Do you teach them and guide them in that direction, provide that program and courses? And I don't know, do you know what I'm saying?
I do, yes. I work to make sure individuals are set up for success. Because again, it all starts with mindset. If you read any book about how the top successful people have done it, it all boils down to mindset, to what they are thinking, the affirmations they give themselves, the vision that they project in their mind's eye constantly. It's not even every day, it's almost every single minute. It's essentially you becoming the master of your own affirmations, the master of your own mind, your own reactions, as I was mentioning earlier. And what it boils down to is it's just that. It's the, abundance versus scarcity. So many of us are raised in scarcity mindset because parents, we want this, we want that for Christmas. Well, money doesn't grow on trees. Like, yeah, if money wasn't an issue, or if we had all the money in the world. So we're almost born with this idea, at least the majority of the society in America, with this idea that money is a very limited thing, and that it's kind of hard to come by, and it's kind of reserved for an exclusive group of people. Now, whenever we kind of start breaking that down and asking, like, well, wait, is money really that scarce? No, there is so much of it out there. Okay, well, then how do we start attracting that to us? And I encourage anyone listening, Bob Proctor, he is a master at this. It is essentially the law of attraction. He's amazing. And he makes me feel so good when I listen to him. I listen to him every single morning, along with many of my mentors, because his book, specifically, You Were Born Rich, changed my life. It really did. It talks about the subconscious mind to the physical mind, like our everyday noisy mind that runs around, but then the much quieter subconscious spiritual sub part of our mind. And then how we can start to structure our thoughts and practices to then switch that frequency from scarcity to a frequency of abundance. And to switch this vision of lack that we have in our own minds to and start envisioning our future of abundance. And the way that we talk to ourselves, self-talk is also massive. And so it's a practice. It really is, and sometimes whenever you first get started, it kind of feels like you're just going through motions. You're like reading my paper, like, okay, I am amazing. I am powerful. I live in a world of abundance. You're just like, I guess. But the more you remind yourself of these things, of these truths, then it starts to shift behaviors on a very subconscious level that then begin to manifest in actions that you see the results in your everyday real life. And that's just a very abridged version, but that's essentially the work. All right, let's see where we are right now. What are our current beliefs? Does that serve us or hurt us? Well, let's kind of take a different perspective on it. What if we, instead of saying I never have money, what if we start to say money is attracted to me? And kind of changing the ways that we speak and think about these things. And again, it's a daily practice. It's not you take a pill and boom, you're fixed. It's not a magic cure-all, but with time, discipline, and consistency, we see ourselves make that shift. We watch our minds make that shift. And that is such a really awesome experience. And what I always like to ask myself, because there's many people that whenever I mention that, like, man, it's really hard to change my mindset. I've just thought this way my entire life. And I'm like, okay, what's harder? Changing this mindset into something that's going to make you feel powerful and happy, or maintaining your painful mindset for the rest of your life, feeling left and nothing's ever good enough? What's harder? Going through what you're currently experiencing, or taking a little bit of time in the grand scheme of things to at least try to make that shift? And that's a challenge. I always encourage individuals to kind of try.
I love how you had brought in the angle of just always trying to inspire the individuals again, and that affirmations. Do you also practice and provide affirmations? Do you work with that type of mindsets of programming the mind as well, besides just affirmations?
I'm curious. I've never heard of affirmations. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so when it comes to affirmations and affirmations, the difference is with affirmations, it's more of a statement like, I am beautiful and I am abundant and I am is more of just a positive aspect of it. But with affirmations is, why does the universe want to provide me so much financial stability in my life? So then the frequency ends up being more positive and much more in a higher level of mindset. It's like, why? Or like if it's a partner, like, why does my husband love me so much? Or what are the many ways that people are, why are they treating me so abundantly in this aspect of really wanting to provide for them? Why does my work partner always want to assist me when I'm in a rut and want to get me out? Or why, or like when it comes to our work and our trying to provide for the clients, it's like, why am I connecting with so many clients and providing a lot of services that they're actually looking for? It's just, it's just asking, and then it subconsciously rewires the mind and providing that answer, like even though you may not know consciously what the answer is, subconsciously the universe works with that and provides that answer for you. And then you start seeing different levels of miracles in your life, and you start seeing how your mindset starts to manifest areas in an outside environment, because you're shifting inside. The frequencies and the circuits are rewiring itself, and you're able to see different angles of miracles of how the universe provides.
I'm actually very shocked. I have never been exposed to that, to affirmations, because that is completely, it makes so much sense. Because how often do we go about our day-to-day world or life and we're like, gosh, why is it so hard? But if we just change that around to being like, wow, why is this just so easy for me to be resilient? Why is it so easy for me to pivot? Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to use that immediately.
Yeah, because it's like it brings you
teaching me today, Reese. Thank you.
Yeah, it just brings you to a higher level of understanding of bring that energy. Like, say you're in a traffic, and instead of saying, okay, I am a really good person right now, I'm not gonna be as that driver next to me because they just like went into my lane. But it's more like, why are the drivers around me so like calm and da da da? You start shifting into your type of mindset.
Honestly, and oh man, and you right there was that little thing, you're like letting go of control. I'm thought of it during some of the questions you've asked me today about like, how do we connect this to that, or like release things? It's like, it's the control aspect. And that was a big one for me. I wanted to control so much. But then whenever we let go of that, which we cannot control, it's the Lord grant me the strength to know what I can control and to release that I cannot. It's just that where it's like, you know what? Anytime something happens, like, what can I control? I can control my reaction, and that's about it in this instance. Okay, that's my controllable. That's what I'm going to do. And it's so funny how then if we start taking it, looking at it through the lens of what can we control, it makes everything our own personal responsibility, and it makes personal accountability so much easier. So like, what can I control? I can control myself. All right, that's what I'm going to start with.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking with like certain individuals, when you see where their space is at, and you allow yourself to give that space so they can take care of themselves, where you don't need to participate in that type of energy of that, taking responsibility, like how we are not really trained here in America, where it's more about the self. It's like, everything's gonna be mine. I'm gonna make sure that I succeed in this life. And you cut that wall from connecting with other individuals, and then you just don't have a connection, and you think that everything works for yourself, and versus
Very great point there too. That's that responsibility to self, but as well as to our community. There's a reason, like, we have evolved as people in tribes. It takes a village, not even just to raise the children, but literally to do everything combined. And that it's leveraging the strengths of others and supporting the weaknesses within everybody and helping. And that really is, like, I feel like we've lost that idea that we are just walking each other home. Like, we are all very, basic humans that were created in God's image to be just that, to love thy neighbor, to help each other, and to be a place of peace and love and understanding here on earth. And when we find our purpose, find our fulfillment, begin to take away those common everyday stressors, maybe people can actually start to live that way again. Stop focusing so much on the self and allow them to then take that broader picture again. And that's why I love, like, what it is that you're doing, and everyone that you're interviewing and sharing, and your mission for just the deeper connection and the personal understanding of oneself. And because that's where we start to then shed that ego, to release that selfishness, and allows us to make those deeper, real connections with those around us.
Yeah, and the big one for me is that trust, is that building that trust. Like, it really mirrors where a person is at when they can't allow that other person into their circles because of lacking that type of level of trust. And so understanding your vision, that you love to connect with individuals and help them fulfill their dreams and their vision, and you bridge that, and you bring value. You're more than just that teacher of providing education on how to understand how money works, because a lot of people, like you said, don't have a good perspective of how money is, and so they don't really have that angle of how to really build that foundation and manifest what they need to manifest. And in that, they're lacking that vision, and so they give up their dream. They give up that wanting to think bigger, outside of the box, and wanting to really fulfill the calling that and the mission that they've been called to do. And it's wonderful that you're able to really walk into that mindset of transitioning and implementing your work with your vision, and you seeing other individuals in your life, how they're doing that. And it's all different networks of a community of building that dream. And so
It's the ultimate vision and goal is to build an entire, just a coalition. I'm looking to build an entire coalition, a network of people that are focused on spiritual wellness, physical wellness, because we all know fitness is also a very important side of our aspects of our life. If we are not healthy and physically fit, then we're going to be experiencing difficulties and disease or like harder things down the line. And so it really is kind of, I want to create this ultimate umbrella coalition of spirituality, mentality, physicality, our financial well-being, literally just a most solid foundation. I want to be and create just bring forth a place for anyone to come in and obtain that just initial startup, that guide, that road plan for how do I go from this place of total lack and unfulfillment and uncertainty to this place that other people have achieved. And there's nothing special about me except like I can talk to people, but there's really nothing special about me. I'm average at math. I'm pretty good reader, but nothing like I'm not reading 500 pages in a day. There's nothing that separates me from anybody else. Yet I know I was able to go from that broken, devastated, lost little girl to a woman who has the space to care so deeply about others and am like just do whatever I can to put wind in their sails to help them achieve their greatest visions, to get them over that horizon. And I know that there's so many other individuals looking for that kind of release, for that escape from this broken, uncertain, scared, lost person that they know that they aren't, but that's where they find themselves after 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years of just not living authentically for themselves. And then showing them it's not hard, it's not complicated, it's just, little steps that we can take daily and little thoughts and affirmations we can begin to question and bring forth to completely change our lives in the most profound, robust ways. And then watching the impact, the ripples that it has in the world around us too.
How do you see yourself when it comes to the long-term goal and vision? Like how many years do you see yourself until you've met those goals in your life?
I mean, for me, my dream is to have a strong coalition, like built and off the ground within the next 2 years at the very latest. Like I've got really big dreams to get this off the ground. I am networking as strong as I can, connecting with amazing like-minded individuals such as yourself, where it's, okay, what is your program? How can we incorporate your program of finding your true self, your true soul into this? Because I have an aspect of that with my own personal spiritual beliefs, but it's not necessarily built into my platform yet. And so finding ways that I can bring these like-minded, powerful individuals that are like, yes, I see this need in the world. How can we amplify our voices together versus being lost in the noise? And if I can build a strong coalition of these individuals where it's basically just like, what are you looking for? Boom, I'm going to get you plugged right in. Here it is. And then we have an entire wellness plan based off of whatever it is they want to achieve. This is my dream, is the longevity coalition. It is not just for wealth, for fitness, for health, for any of that. It is for longevity. And that in and of itself is such a broad term that encompasses so many different aspects of our lives. I can't master it all, but I know a lot of really amazing people who are so passionate about their industries that they become a master of it. And if multiple masters come together into one unified front, man, that impact is going to be huge. And we're going to have something for everybody. And all together, we can create that super strong foundation with no breakable parts or no weaknesses. We can grow it together at the same time to have just a foundation that lasts for eons, not just centuries, but I'm talking eons for families. Getting really amped up here.
That's exactly, I was thinking about when President Trump was talking about like entrepreneurs and bring them out to life again and creating more entrepreneurs. I was just like, so that's what I was thinking about when I was listening to you, and I was like, I'm so glad he's in office. It's like he can do it. I know he's the man.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting times socioeconomically, because it is deeper than just the economic impact in our country, where we find ourselves post-COVID, post this last presidency, where, and frankly, even just the rampant, not to get political, because this isn't a political platform, but it's just for my people, it's exciting times. And all I can say is that for those that feel uncertainty or fear for the next 4 years or with this outcome, it's all I can tell anybody is that love is what's going to make America great again. It's love, it's understanding, it's empathy, and it's our responsibility as Americans that bleed red, white, and blue to do just that. It's, you know, yes, uphold our values, especially like in our family units and everything like that. But we really do need to start moving away from as much governmental oversight as possible. And I do believe that our new President Trump is going to be able to start making those changes and make this a landscape for entrepreneurs again, and start leveling out mega corporations that have been allowed to run rampant and essentially break their corporate profit records while we're paying outrageous amounts for groceries and barely able to feed our own families. But yet these corporations are killing it, and their CEOs are getting bonuses that are bigger than ever before. And it's all off the backs of the American people. And I'm excited to see hopefully the scales being rebalanced to allow small business owners, entrepreneurs, the individuals, the hardworking Americans start to rebuild, so we can see a period of economic growth again and equality within everybody. And so I am excited to see what these next 4 years hold as well, because I mean, it kind of can only go up from here.
Yeah.
But love always, that's my biggest one. Again, I've got so many friends that in the LGBT community that have a lot of fears and things of that nature. And all I can ever say is like, I love you, I support you, I protect you, I am a advocate for you. And that's all I can control. So, but just helping people understand, like, fear, it's okay to feel afraid, but it's not okay to let fear guide ignorance.
Yeah, because we don't know the bigger picture when it comes to a person's situation. And there's a lot of the way I see it, when a person is lacking that type of education, it seems to mirror that type of level of judgment that they carry with people that they don't understand, because they can't relate, because they haven't exposed themselves in that type of environment or that type of connection, and individuals who are just different from them. And so it's more like a black and white type of mindset of thinking, well, no, this needs to happen because of this. And then they start digging into scripture, when in reality, we just don't have the bigger picture, because God he's the ultimate when it comes to providing what our life is down here. He knows what that lesson that we need to go through, and that level of commitment that will be pertaining down here. He works with where individuals are at, that we can't judge them and say, well, they're not trying hard enough, and not realize that the person doesn't know what other complications is going on with their life. So yeah, let that driver come in front of me, because who knows, maybe they're just in their mind, not real. And I just didn't know that they just lost a loved one, and they just missed because I was probably in their blind spot. Who knows?
Thank you. Oh, it's so easy for us to feel like everything that somebody does is against us. And one of my mantras when I find myself feeling victimized is to not give malice the credit that ignorance deserves. So essentially, don't believe that people are doing something just to spite you. Most of the time, they're not even aware they're doing it. It's total ignorance. It's total just like, it's just weird timing, wrong place, wrong time, just weird place or weird time. And that provides so much peace, and it helps with that victimization of being like, why is just God against me? Why is the world against me? It's like, I've had 15 people cut me off today. What is going on? It's like, hey, you know what? It's just the way it goes. I need to be taught a patient or a lesson in patience today. And that's the other thing, is instead of getting mad, get reflective, get curious. Like, okay, why am I upset right now? Okay, is there a lesson that I could be learning here? And that helps me a lot too when I find myself in those moments, because I'm only human. I'm still reactive. Like, I haven't mastered my emotions. And so when I find myself in those places, instead of like being like, oh my God, this is ruining my day, like I'm just so frustrated, just kind of calming down, take a breath, and like, what is this lesson here? What did I pray for lately that this could be a prayer being answered from God? But we ask for patience, and he doesn't just give us patience, right? He's not like, boom, you are a more patient person today. No, we pray for patience, and we get opportunities to build patience, to become a more patient person. One of my other colleagues, it's funny, she uses that one a lot, and she's like, I prayed for patience and God gave me 14 children.
That's a good one.
And it's like,
Yeah,
yep,
because
you don't get what you pray for, you get the opportunity to build what you pray for, to develop what you pray for. And if we just remind ourselves of that, it takes a lot of the pressure off of us to just do it right or to have it all figured out. If we are like, there's a lesson to learn, we are always learning, it takes that pressure off and allows us to be that kid that's allowed to make mistakes again, because that's what we are. We're just kids that are allowed to make mistakes, and we're not perfect, and that's okay. It's actually really beautiful that we're not perfect, and we have these chances to learn from our messy mistakes and to grow through that. And so I feel like that's just the big one, is if we just take this expectation of perfection off of ourselves and just let ourselves be these messy, funny, explore, like curious children again, then our relationship to ourselves, to our creator, to our families, to our friends is going to be so much richer. Because I remember being a kid, our friends were so much fun and so little like, nothing mattered. It wasn't all important. You weren't like, if you and your friend stopped talking, it was because you both wanted the pink pony, and like, instead of being able to share a pink and a white one. So I don't know. It's just those silly little things, that the quality of life thing. If we go back to our childlike wonder.
yeah, definitely, I agree with you, as the patience part and connecting and bring out that childlike or child acting as a child. There's a difference with the acting as a child or being a childlike. It's like,
Exactly. You're acting
and
like a child that's like, don't be throwing that temper tantrum. But
yeah,
whenever we have that childlike wonder, then it's like, okay, I'm dreaming like I was as a kid. I'm exploring the world like I was as a child, and being curious about my world around me just as I was as a child. Because we lose that at some point as we grow up. And I feel like that takes a lot of the sparkle out of life, is whenever we start dissociating from our childlike states of wonder and excitement.
and that's what I've found a lot too, with people who are business owners and people who are just building their projects in life, they have that child essence in them. They have that energy and that spark that becomes what's it called? Contagious, because you're building it and you're just you're in building that, you're attracting the people in your life. And then
Right.
and in closing, so what is your advice or ideas to lead a person out of their dark chapter in their life to fulfill the vision in life, and that being financially stable, and you coming in, or other networking individuals that would want to work with the viewer audience?
Yes. Oh, wow. For me, it's that when you hit that moment of just enough is enough, or you know that there's something that you're missing, let's talk. Because for me, it's let's get curious. Let's take a look and ask some questions about, all right, what feels like it is in alignment in your life, but what feels like it's lacking alignment? What do you feel like you're spinning your wheels stuck in a rut? Tell me about your past and what it was like growing up for you and in your family unit, because that also helps me understand where some of their beliefs are, or even just self-beliefs, not even beliefs about the world around them or their finances, but just the way that they believe in themselves. And then I kind of just get curious and just asking the questions that open their eyes to themselves, that someone maybe didn't ask them or didn't even like consider asking them, because not very many people in our world are aware of those around them. Frankly, it's a growing phenomenon that people are starting to ask others how they are and really authentically mean it. So really, it's just like I start to, for even those that are in a super dark place, I'm like, well, what is something that makes you feel good? And let's just start there. Something small, something simple, and we can take this little chunk and we just keep adding more layers onto it until it becomes this bright, glowing orb of just happiness and joy and self-worth that a person finds for themselves. And it's all through just leading them in self-discovery and asking really curious questions about themselves and their deeper purpose and their deeper why and what it is that they want to fight for in this world and in their lives. Because everyone's got that fight.
Yeah, that's really beautiful, and how you just like close that up, and just as an audience is like wanting to work with you. So yeah, what platform, media handle, or is it email or that you?
Yes, absolutely. Feel free to reach out to me directly with my phone number, and as well email Hailey Q Jacobs at gmail.com as I get my agency off the ground and officially get the name in stone and everything. And so as well as you follow me on my social media, I've got my Instagram. It's at the longevity coalition. And then also my LinkedIn is LinkedIn, Hailey-Jacobs1. And so feel free to follow me, reach out to me, connect with me. Let's just have some fun conversation. If you're even unsure if you want to have any kind of financial literacy, we don't have to go there. But if you've got questions, ask away. I am here for any and all answers. And even to just have really awesome conversations, just like what Reese and I did today. I love exploring new topics. I love exploring new ideas. So let's connect. I'm very happy to be here, and let's get connected to our higher selves.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this. And just thank you for sharing and all the experiences that you've provided, and connections, and examples, lots of examples. And there you go. Like, and yeah, thank you so much for joining us here with Hailey Jacobs and myself, and here where we connect with entrepreneurs and Starseed, where we bring in higher consciousness to uplift the planet. And going forward and upward. And thank you again. See you next. Oh, we hope you have a beautiful weekend and see you next weekend.
Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that is a big thing for self-accountability and self-awareness, to be at the starting point of a personal development journey, simply because it has you looking at the rights and wrongs of your own actions and then realizing how that's affected where you are today. And if that is affected where you are today, then you have the power to control your actions going forward. The past has already happened. So, so you can't go forward looking in the rearview mirror. So it's only there for you to analyze real quickly and learn from your mistakes, and then to move forward and start moving in a manner that you are producing and creating not only the life that you want, but creating the person that you would like to become.